Hi, my name's Darlene Sillick, and I'm president of Ohio Bluebird Society. And I'm pretty passionate about doing projects to help birds um, get to live their life a little bit better in better digs than what they sometimes have, safer, for sure. And this is a male and female bluebird, as if you didn't know. This picture was taken by Janice Petco, and I thank her for letting us use it. So some points to help people help birds. You need to understand the habitat. Each bird doesn't share the same habitat. A number of them like to be in the woods. A few more like to be at the wood edge. And there's a few that like to be in the open, near water. So you need to read up and do your homework and figure out the bird that you want to attract. You need to determine what their good habitat is and who's going to be competing. And I think you all know that what birds need is water, even in the wintertime, cover, shelter, and food. And before I forget, I do want to say this weekend, after we got all of our heavy snow, somewhere between 6 and 7 inches here, I have had 10 bluebirds at a time at my little condo patio feeder. They love the no mess blend. And of course, they like suet. So with all the different projects we have going on, my two favorite are Nest Watch and Feeder Watch. And I can't say enough for involving youth. Ohio Young Bluebird Society is a fantastic organization helping youth, helping them have a voice, helping them to be involved in projects, helping them to find confidence in themselves. So if you know kids that are 11 to 18, that's a great organization to direct their parents to check out. I work at a large company, Cardinal Health, and people know that I'm a birder. So they want to come up and show me a picture of a bird. What is this? What is it doing? It's a good way to get a conversation started. So the poster bird for conservation work being done on a grassroots level is the eastern bluebird. And we are very lucky to have done a lot of work in Ohio. And I feel like our numbers keep growing, but Mike Watson is the expert on all the data. So conservation, what does it mean? It means preservation, protection, or restoration of the natural environment and of wildlife. And we call this nature conservation. And these are some of my young Ohio birders, and they're having a nest box building session. I was really lucky in the kids that joined the Central Ohio group that they loved getting out in the field and doing projects, and they loved helping to do the research. I was very fortunate to have these kids, and all of these kids, young students, are now either in college or just out of college. So it's really fun to hear from them and what they're studying and what they're giving back to the environment. So you want to be a part of something bigger. You want to pass the spark to the next generation. As you can see, I'm really hung up on these kids and what they're doing. There's all kinds of different groups, from Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, church groups, National Honor Society, garden groups, camps, and I've gone to many retired centers, and a lot of them have workstations, work rooms where they can build, and they love doing it. Corporations and metro parks and city parks. I like doing things in a very public setting. I want people to see the nest boxes and ask, what are those for? And I also am lucky to be near several colleges, and I have had students and professors from Ohio State, Ohio Wesleyan, and Otterbein come out and do field research on my trails. So again, I mentioned how these students love projects. Some of the things that we've done have been bluebird trails, and we pair the boxes, and tree swallow grids. And thanks to Dick Tuttle for teaching me about tree swallow grids. Woodland habitat being used for cavity nesting species. Purple martin gourd housing. I definitely prefer the gourds over the houses. It's easier to trap in the gourds, and the birds are safer because they're quite large. I have put up kestrel rigs and boxes or screech owl boxes. Use one and the same. Chimney swift towers, wood duck. We had 2 nests of wood ducks fledged last year in our area. Thank you, Tim Bischoff. And we've had some barred owl boxes up. And what we've been excited to learn about the last 3 or 4 years is that we have southern flying squirrels. And I've been working with Don Altoff from Rio Grande, and he does major research, and I'm hoping the students can go out this spring to see what he does. We have put up osprey platforms, and we've involved universities and zoos and a number of golf courses. So location. It's so important. If you are putting up something that is rather expensive, like a purple martin rig with 24 gourds, you want to make sure that you're putting it in the right place. And if you're not going to get purple martins, if they're not going to be interested in that location, you've wasted a lot of money, and it's probably not your money. It's hopefully a grant that you're writing or a GoFundMe. I do have students and Boy Scouts that do GoFundMe. These are, again, some of the different sites that we've been working with, and we're pretty excited to involve Ottawa National Wildlife Area, again, National Wildlife Area, and ecological centers, all the different parks, nature centers, and the Grange Insurance Audubon Center. We have several different types of boxes there. They have great habitat. And Hoover Nature Preserve is another good one. And this year, I was contacted by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I donated some boxes to their project, and then they bought the poles and baffles. And they're trying to mow less and help birds more with the assistance of Canton Audubon and myself, and trying to help get the people in the community involved with these boxes. Okay, here are just some examples of a few projects. And this is a picture taken by Tim Daniel from ODNR. And these students, they've grown up. And again, they're all either in college or out of college now. But they put up the first volunteer student tree swallow grid at Ottawa National Wildlife Area. So that was quite exciting. They built the boxes. We had Charlie Zepp build our baffles and get our poles ready. and parents came out to help that day. And I work with a great man at Cardinal Health. He's Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at Cardinal Health. And his son is DeVray II, and he's a student at Westerville Central High School and in National Honor Society. And he built 140 nest boxes. Now it's closer to 200. And all the boxes at Glacier Ridge Metro Park on the west side of Columbus and Union County and Delaware County are his work. And he's been published with Cornell Nest Watch and also on their Facebook site. So he's quite an industrious young man. And his dad saw me at work a couple weeks ago and said he's ready for more and he wants to help at Hoover Nature Preserve. So we're quite excited. And this is his father, and DeVray, and the ranger at Glacier Ridge, and a big helper of mine, Carl Bledich. He's also on the board of OBS, and he helps me because I have a little difficulty in the field these days, but he was, quite instrumental in getting this pulled off pretty quickly. And you'll hear about Carl more. We do a lot of programs, and this is a program on the left with the Hard Road Library and some of my volunteers and a parent, a father and son. And if you look close, you'll see Paula Zebarth, Madam Wingnut. She came with her son, and they were building boxes as well. And she's helping a young man. So we help and guide them and let them write their name and the date on the bottom of the boxes. And then we put them up in the field somewhere. And Paula's son is featured here on their front porch where he likes to build his boxes. And he's built over 300 boxes. Gregory is severely autistic. He loves birds. He loves building the boxes, and he calls them dinosaur boxes because he knows that birds are related to the dinosaur. I think it's priceless. OCVN volunteers, Ohio Certified Volunteer Naturalist. So I was a part of a class probably 6 years ago, and now I help to find projects for them to do. And this is a group, and they're pretty tough. As you see, Carl is also a part of the OCVN group. The gentleman on the right, he's holding his GPS, and he plots out all the locations. And then we use that, Carl and Paula set up the locations on Cornell's Nest Watch site. So we get them as accurate as we can. And the picture at the top, again, is at the barn that I used from the city of Dublin. And it's a gentleman who's on the board at Stratford. And he had a truck, and he's helping Carl to get things delivered to a project. So you never know when you are with people how you're going to find volunteers. And you just can't be shy about it. So the first Purple Martin grants I did were through the Columbus Zoo Conservation Fund. And the zoo has been fantastic working with them. And then in turn, I find Boy Scouts who are looking for a project, and they help to raise some funds, and they help to get the project done. And at South Bass Island, they had to take the ferry over with all their supplies and all the hardware. It is so fun to watch them, and I could only pick out a few of the pictures. There's 24 gourds on this rig, and when we do put up a rig, we try to have a nest box close by, because a lot of times tree swallows think that that great big gourd is all for them, and it's not. So we've had grant funds for 18 different, now just about 19 Purple Martin rigs. And I'm working with Boy Scout number 33. And he's redoing an old wooden falling down rig at Stratford Ecological Center in Delaware. So this is a nice sign thanking the Columbus Zoo for awarding the grant and thanking Paula and I. She has a home on South Bass Island, so she monitors and helps out with keeping this rig going. If I get up there for a visit, then, I have to go see it. I have to go help. So this is at Safari Golf Course. And these are 3 rigs that we have at Safari. One was put up by a Boy Scout. One was put up by Safari Golf Course, Ted Hunker. And another one was a grant from Ohio Ornithological Society. So it's important to get buy-in for your projects. And the 3 men on the left are maintenance crew at Safari. They love watching for the martins to return. They love watching them fledge. They help me. They take down the gourds and clean them. And they put up the gourds and put pine needles in them in the spring, usually by the first weekend of April. You don't want to try to fund it yourself. You want to try and involve different groups in the community. And afterwards, you want to write articles. You want to have pictures. I try to get articles on the Ohio Bluebird Society website and in the newsletter. And I submit articles to the Ohio Ornithological Society newsletter or their online, which is called Chip Notes. And there's a number of other groups that I get grants from, and I definitely promote those groups. So this was a really exciting project. I learned about Purple Martins bird watching at Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. And they had, if you could see here on the left, there's a old wooden house. This was the house that I got my life Purple Martin on. Now, the only thing that's been in it has been house sparrows and maybe some tree swallows. So I approached the director at Ottawa and said, I have funding for an Eagle Scout project, and we want you to take down the wooden house, and we're going to put up 24 gourds. And this grant came from the National Audubon Chapter Grant, and it was done by 2 different Eagle Scouts. One Eagle Scout put up 2 rigs, and then the next Eagle Scout put up 2 more when very quickly the rig was full. And we have fantastic monitors of Mike and Don Zook, and their son was one of my young birders, and he now works for Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. So pretty exciting how that circle comes around and closes. Okay, this is a test. What species is this? You can see it's in a nest box. You can see that the parent is going to definitely be incubating. Stephen was taking part in a how fast do they grow project and graphing it out. And they do look like little dinosaurs. So can you tell me what the species is? Yep, you're right. They are northern flickers. Now, we did not get a picture of the flickers fledging from the box. We know they did, but that was during the time at Sawmill Wetlands when Division of Wildlife had to close it down for a couple months because a developer was trying to get the property. Let's just say we went out and a group of amazing people headed up a project to keep sawmill wetlands wild for wildlife and people to learn. And kestrels, the American kestrel, and a safer way to help them. So how would you, this is Tom Shealy, owner of Wild Birds Unlimited, and he has a rickety ladder against a round pole looking in a kestrel box. There are young in there, and we did get them banded. Dr. Jed Burt was there that day. And this is a female kestrel, and this is Dick Tuttle's hand. And Dick has some boxes on telephone poles, and he also uses a ladder, but he has had absolutely incredible success rate with fledgling kestrels in Delaware County. So I had to come up with a different idea. And I went to Ohio Bluebird Society and to Ohio Ornithological Society and wrote a grant. So this is at the Wilds, and this is what the Wilds had up. And as you can see, they're pretty close to shrub and brush. Not a good idea. Snakes can get by this. And this is a piece of sheet metal here that is going around the pole, trying to discourage predators. You still have to bring out a ladder, and it's not the best kestrel box design. So it doesn't have a roof to provide much shading, a good roof. So I'm showing you where I get my project funds from, or what I use my project funds to buy. And I go to Troyer's Birds Paradise, and I work with Adam or Andy, and they are fantastic, such a help to me. Yes, I'm buying their products, but I'm also writing grants, and they just love it. So these are, looks like 4 kestrels. This is in a nest box at Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. And this is a picture from Mike and Don Zook. So this is one of the Boy Scouts I worked with, and he put up nest boxes in our Franklin County metro parks, and he used the new system. So we were testing and piloting the new system. And he did all the work to put the hardware on, to put the back on the box, so it would go over the pole, the 1-inch pole, square pole. And he also put black circles on each side, and that helped to attract the kestrels to the boxes. Carson was an amazing young man. His father was a fireman, and he couldn't wait to follow in his father's footsteps. A really, really great young man. Then I started working on the Wilds project. I was really concerned with how their poles were, their boxes. I wanted to make it better. I wanted to see them have more success. And by gosh, we did. So a year ago, November, so it was November 2020, I pulled together my army, and you'll see Tim Bischoff here and Carl Gleditch here. And they are both such amazing helpers to me. And if you look down at this baffle, it's a quick release baffle. It's easy to put it on and take it off. So what happens, you can lower the box, or you can use an extension phone or video camera to look into the hole and see what's in there. you do not ever have to use a ladder. And the interns that worked on this past year loved it. So, a little bit about the American kestrel, and you can see that for yourself. There's some interesting facts about them. And there's a wonderful group in Idaho that works with raptors, the Idaho Raptors Inc. And they have fantastic information on cavity nesting raptor species. Another project that I like working with the species is the chimney swift. And the chimney swift is closely related to the hummingbird. It has very, very, very small, weak feet. If you look, it has barbs on the tail and helps for gripping. You can also see that it has extremely long wings, and they are on the wing until they go in for the night. They eat, sleep, and mate on the wing. And this is a Boy Scout troop at Safari Golf Course, and they're putting in a chimney swift tower across the lake from our purple martin rig. And we've had chimney swifts fly by. It's been up 2 years now. So we're hoping that they will show up any time. As you know, chimney swift numbers have declined. And just to show you quickly, the Carolina wren has a little different box. I don't have a picture of the box here. And this is what their nest looks like, and the eggs and the young, and they do nest twice. I don't know of anyone that doesn't like the Carolina wren. And here we have at Sawmill Wetland, tufted titmice who were checking out a nest box and what their nest and young look like. And this was a juvenile that pre-fledged at Paula's house. And we call him the little punk rocker. And she was able to get him and put him back in the house, where he stayed for a few more days till fledging. So one of the numerous species we work with are the tree swallows, and they are nature's aerial insect eaters. They love mosquitoes, and they are just fun to work with. And then we put up tree swallow grids. Thanks to Dick Tuttle for teaching me about how to work with the grid. He actually helped me put this one in. It was my first one. And there are 12 boxes there. This is at a kayaking place up at Twin Lakes. And this is another view of it. And it's actually on Columbus Zoo property. And then here, so Puma is the name, the banding code for purple martins. And we are at Safari Golf Course, and we're doing a nest change. And I wish I had the front of everybody, but I don't. So this is Charlie Zepp. And he's the one that builds all the different nest boxes. And we do all this research together. It's just amazing working with Charlie. And here's Madam Wingnut, or Paula Zebarth, some folks from the zoo. And here's Carl again, and a couple of my young birders. And this is Ted Hunker. And I don't know if you remember, a couple years ago, we gave the Conservation Award to Ted Hunker, and he had died that fall. And he supported me tremendously. This is Mike Krieger. He's Vice President of Conservation at the zoo, and he loves coming out and helping with the projects. And I wish we had a front view of Josue, but he's the one that does all the work on our videos so that we can put them on YouTube for our conferences. He's a coworker, And he and his wife have helped me a number of times with this project. So I try to bring people together that have had something to do with the project. And this is like their pay it forward. And this was the Boy Scout and my two young birders who come out and help. And I believe this is Ted Hunker's hands. And he's holding a young purple martin. And here they are aging on these charts. These are laminated charts. And of course, this is Mike Krieger. And again, it's so fun working with Mike. And Paula Zebarth, this was an old house that we had at Safari. We've since taken it down because we were having house sparrow issues. And we put up a new gourd rig. And this just shows some of the data on what we've done over, 9 years. So pretty important. Paula is my data guru. I am the project, get the money, get the people guru. So we work together quite well. Nest box placement. Many of you know this. If you don't, then take a few minutes to go over this slide. The biggest thing, if you're trying to put up boxes for bluebirds and tree swallows, you want to be 40 yards from the nearest woods or shrub edge. Do not put them on a tree or a building or a fence post. And monitor your boxes, of course, once a week and put the data on Cornell Nest Watch, but also use good baffles. And by good baffles, thanks to some research that Paula did, we are now using, we were using 4-inch PVC, and we have a video somewhere of raccoons getting by the baffles and into the box. So now we try to use 6-inch, and this is aluminum sheeting. And this is AZAC, which is a concrete piece, and Charlie puts these together. So this is what I would call a best practice, as well as nest box locations. And you want to put, let me back up, you want to have that baffle be 1 inch from the bottom of the box. And we may see some more as we go along here in the pictures. So Sawmill Wetlands has been quite an interesting study project, and Tim Bischoff heads that up. He heads up OCLC, Sawmill Wetlands, and Kiwanis. And we have worked and gotten grants for game cameras. And some of the things that he's captured has been quite interesting. So I'm going to show you this video real quick. There it goes. Now, you can watch this again. That's a southern flying squirrel. There's a family of them at Sawmill Wetlands. They're also at many other parks and woodlots in Ohio. It is the most common squirrel, rodent, and I think they're just as cute as a button. This one, you can just see his nose. If you zoom in on it, you can see the nose of the flying squirrel. This is a flicker box. And this is a special arm that Tim Bischoff built to put the camera on. And here's the camera, and then it looks back at the hole. And this is a box that had some acorns in it. And the flying squirrel went into the box, got an acorn in his teeth, and then took off. So at Twin Lakes, we had 2 successful wood duck boxes, and we didn't get pictures. They're pretty doggone quick, but these are just some pictures from other sources, and we're quite excited. So within 24 hours, the young ducklings fledge the box. So they are born with feathers. They're called precocial with feathers, and 24 hours and they're out of there in the water, or they land on the dried leaves and they walk to the water. This is an interesting story, and yes, I'm going back a little bit, but another gentleman and I volunteered at Ohio Wildlife Center, and I got a call, and they had 4 little screech owls sitting in a box. Why, you say? Their home was cut down, and where will they go? So sometimes things just happen for a reason. And the night before, I had taken this box, you'll see next, down, and I had starlings using it. And I thought, I'm done with the starlings and fighting with them. The box is gone. So it was in my car. I got a call from the Wildlife Center. These are my hands holding a baby screech owl. And this is the 4 young. And they're in a box on a towel, and they kept making their little noises. So what I did while we were driving almost half an hour, 40 minutes to get to the owner's lot, I was recording on my phone their sounds. Now think about why I was doing that, and then I'll fill you in here in a minute. So we did have an Eastern Screech Owl reunion, and if you look closely at this box, so this is not the tree that was cut down. It's another tree that was close by. So back here is a woodlot, and I was sure, since the tree was just cut down that morning, that the parents were back there. So while they were putting this nest box up, and I asked them to get some stiff pieces of grass or weeds and to put a crisscross in front of the hole so that when the screech owl adult went in, we would know it went in because this would be broken. And no, I didn't read a book about how to do this. I just tried to use my common sense and volunteering at Ohio Wildlife Center for at least 25 years or more. While they were putting this box up, I was walking along the edge, and as loud as I could play it, I was playing the begging calls of the screech owls. Then I had the family and their children feeding some mealworms to the baby screech owls, because I figured by the time we got out of there, it would be close to dark and they'd be hungry. So sure enough, the next morning, we left a ladder, which was a little bit of a risk, but the one of the adults, I think it was the wife, climbed up, saw that there was, this was broken. And then she put her camera up to the box and took a picture. And sure enough, one of the adults was sitting on the young. So that was one of those serendipity moments that really makes you feel good for all the extra work you're doing. Now, another story that happened, this gentleman, and again, I was leaving Cardinal Health. I get a phone call. Darlene, you've got to go up to Delaware. This guy hit a female kestrel. He's got it in a box in his truck. You got to bring it down to the Wildlife Center. Well, I was going to dinner in Delaware with friends. So we got the bird, and this is what it looked like inside his car. And, you have to give it to him, some applause, because he cared enough to try to get help for the bird. So the bird was in pretty good shape. I had to go into the wildlife center by myself at night. It's different. And nobody else was there. So I had to give some first aid to the bird. I had Christy Krumloff on the phone telling me what to do. And I was getting bitten talon pretty good. So the bird had spunk. And I was at a raptor presentation class out at Dawes Arboretum when I got the call that the kestrel, that she was ready to be released. She was flying, she was eating. So we stopped. Luckily, Mike and Don Zook were with me. They're big helpers of mine. And Mike's a wonderful photographer. And we went up to the site where the bird was hit. And we, this is a video. See if I can get it to play. And driving up there and parking in a church lot, we saw the male kestrel on the wires. So that was quite exciting. Well, and I think Mike was close with the camera. There you go. Another one of those serendipity moments, and a moment that, it was worth it to leave the class early. It was worth it to be late for dinner to get the female kestrel. And it's just pretty amazing, what goes on and the feelings that you get after helping birds like this. And I just wanted to mention a few words about my mentor, Dick Tuttle. And he has put up all the osprey platforms up at Alum Creek, plus a few other places. And he helped the central chapter of the Ohio Young Birders Club to build a platform at Jerry Brevort's house. And it was put up at Glacier Ridge Metro Park. Now, we've had other birds use it, but we have not had osprey yet. They probably need more water. We're not going to give up. But it's great that there's people like Dick, like myself, like Tim, like Carl, and like Mike and Dawn, who go the extra mile to help out birds and wildlife. So just a few facts. In the past 35 years, over 7,000 nest boxes have been built for all different species of cavity nesting birds. And 75% of the lumber has been recycled lumber. Again, I'm very lucky to have Charlie Zepp. He is a force. We've become quite good friends, watched his kids grow up, and I don't know what I'd do without him. So close to 65% of the boxes have been donated to public parks for startup and large nesting programs. And countless youth and adults have learned about secondary cavity nesting birds in the past 35 years. Now, this is one of Paula Zebar's boxes, and she came out at Christmas to go for a walk, and she saw the red bow on some of her boxes. Quite nice what someone did. So what's next? These are some things I'm working on right now. I have funding and have the supplies to put up a Modus tower. And some of the funding came from a National Audubon grant. I'm training more monitors. I'm redoing the Bluebird Trail at Hoover Meadows with a couple scouts, trying to find a home for 4 more osprey platforms. And we're redoing a 40 Bluebird box trail at the Wilds. and we're going to be putting in tree swallow grids. So what I asked Janelle to do, and you'll hear probably not too much about our Bluebird program, that'll be next year, but because we're putting it in March, and we are looking for volunteers to get the work done. Probably 95% of the birds they have fledged in their 48 boxes are tree swallows. So we're going to put in tree swallow grids. And, we'll have a linear grid, we'll have multiple row grids, but we use the Pythagorean theorem when we're putting in tree swallow grids. If someone wants more information about a tree swallow grid, they can contact me or contact Dick Tuttle. We are trying to get more ring cameras at schools with Ohio Bluebird Society and using the school's Wi-Fi. And then they can have a feed come into the classroom and they can see what's going on. We're working with more youth and just sharing the passion, just trying to get people excited. Just to give you a sense of how important one box can be in a year's time. So this box is outside of the entrance to Ohio Wildlife's Education Center. And in this box, one season, first, Carolina chickadees nested and fledged. Then eastern bluebirds nested and fledged. Then tree swallows nested and fledged. Then house wrens nested and fledged. And yes, house sparrows were trying, but they became food for accipiters, for coopers and sharp-shinned hawks that were just on the other side of the gate. So this is my favorite quote, and never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And written by Margaret Mead. And I got a wonderful Wildlife Diversity Conservation Award last year from the Ohio Division of Wildlife. I was quite surprised. It was very, very nice. So we can't really ask questions. Now, you can email me. So my email isn't private if you do have questions. And this photo, I love this photo. And then one more thing to show. The Anna Rose is on our board now. She's a junior at Ohio State, and she is an artist and an amazing student. She does the logo for the Ohio Bluebird Society conference every year. And we're hoping next year to be able to sell t-shirts with her incredible logo on it. So just wanted to give everybody a shout out. Thank you for listening.